Hey guys, my cheeks are seeing a lot of action these days. In case you missed it, I did a video yesterday on the Chanel cream to powder blushes. If you're interested, it is there. But today we're going to be talking about the brand new Hourglass Ambient Lighting palettes. So Hourglass does these palettes all the time, and they always come out with special ones around the fall. I want to say holiday season, but it seems really early to say that since it's just the beginning of September. But they were just recently launched, and Hourglass was kind enough to send all three to me. So we are going to be playing around with all three of these bad boys. I'm so excited. They also sent along the two limited edition brushes that come along with this collection. They're also releasing a set of their Phantom Volumizing Glossy Balm. It's going to be a duo of the two shades Trace and Mystic. I believe there's a savings when you buy the duo as opposed to a la carte. And then I was on the Hourglass site and they have a whole bunch of like sets and combos that you can buy of, a bunch of their holiday products, a bunch of their like hero products like these Phantom Glossy Balms. And I believe they have a face set, which includes this case, which is really nice. I wonder, oh yeah, it is coming through. It has like a bronze finish. This is a vegan leather. And when I first unpacked it, I just thought it was like chocolate brown. But when I got it underneath this lighting, I noticed that it has a bronze finish, which is really, really pretty. And it's one of those diagonal opening cosmetic cases or, I don't know, travel pouches that kind of lays open and you've got a zipper on the inside. And then it has these little loops here for like brushes or thin bottles or things. And then there's like an elasticated pocket on this side. So really, really nice bag. I feel like these bags hold a lot more than they look like they would. There's something about the shape and the way they open. It's just really cool. Anyway, so this is part of, like I said, I think it's part of the face set, and they have a whole bunch of different sets and a few different like pouch varieties. I think one's like a little bit smaller. Anyway, definitely take a look at the Hourglass site. Of course, I'll link everything down below in my description box if you are interested. So in all three of these palettes, 5 out of the 6 shades are brand new. And I'll point out which one is not new. I also wanted to mention that if you go onto the Hourglass site, and let's say you really, really like this lotus flower cover, but you want the actual dragon palette, the powders that are in the dragon palette, you can go ahead and pick this cover and select these powders, and you can kind of customize it in that way. So I was hoping you could kind of customize like which powders you wanted. You can. There's like 3 set powder layouts basically, and then the 3 different covers, and then you can mix and match in that way. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the Lotus Flower palette. This one is for the deeper skin tones, and it is just, I think it's absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. So I did some swatches of these. I went from left to right, top to bottom. The first one is a highlighter in Golded Strobe Light. The next is Blush in Desert Flush. Then we have a finishing powder in Eternal Light. This shade is not new. This is the only shade in here that is not new. Every other shade is new. Next, we have a highlighter in Radiant Rose Strobe Light. Then we have blush in Red Zero. And then we have a bronzer in Bronze Heat. So I have very, very light skin. I don't know that these powders will work for me. They definitely were not designed for my skin tone, definitely designed for a deeper skin tone. But I'm going to go ahead and apply some of them just to give you an idea of what they look like. So I'm going to use the Hourglass double-ended. I think these are called like the ambient lighting brushes. There's one side that is a little bit rounder, a little bit denser, and then the other side is more rounded, more pointy, if you will, and just a little bit lighter of an application at the tip there. So I'm going to start with the denser side, and I'm actually going to go into this deeper bronze color because this one I think is a little bit too warm. This one is a little bit cooler. This is Bronze Matte. And just going to apply just a little bit. I'm just placing it underneath my cheekbones to get like a contour going. And just with that little bit, it is really, really effective. Very, very effective. Okay, so that is the bronzer. I'm gonna go into this shade right in the middle. This one is the blush in Desert Flush. Now, when I was swatching these powders, I was, just using my fingers. They definitely feel very, very similar to all the past Hourglass palettes that I've used. There's one shade in a different palette, which I will point out, it felt a lot drier. It definitely swatched more beautifully, but I am definitely curious how it's going to actually apply to my cheeks. But all of these powders in this palette, super smooth, have a beautiful sheen. Yeah, and applying really, really nicely. So I'm being really gentle with my application here, again, because my skin is so pale. But here is Desert Flush applied. Wow, that's pretty. All right. Desert Flush. Now, these highlights, this one is, let's see, Gilded Strobe Light. And then this one is Radiant Rose Strobe Light. I'm going to go for the one on top here, this Gilded Strobe Light. Again, it's definitely going to be way too deep for me, but I'm going to just apply a little bit just on the tops. These strobe lights from Hourglass are so beautiful. Look at that sheen. Wow. Wow, that is stunning. So, so beautiful. And it's a little bit dark, but I feel like I can get away with it, strangely enough. Right? Look how deep that looks in the pan, but the reflectiveness, the metallic sheen of it is really bright. I think that's the only reason why I can get away with it. That is really beautiful. So that is the Lotus Flower palette. I am going to remove all of this, put my foundation back on, and then we will move to the eye palette. All right, so here is the eye palette. Actually, I think the full name is, it's Evil Eye. The Evil Eye palette. So here again, we've got 6 gorgeous shades. And here are the swatches, again, from left to right, top to bottom. I'll point out which one is not new. First, we have the finishing powder in Soft Light. This is the repeat shade. This is not new. Next, we have highlighter in Rose Gold Strobe Light. Then we have a blush in Pink Fusion. And then we have another blush in Oasis Glow, another blush in Vibrant Coral. And then finally, we have a bronzer in Natural Bronze. And another thing I like about all of these palettes, and you'll see that when I show you the Dragon one as well, they have a highlight, a blush, and a bronzer in all of these palettes. Last year, I can't remember which one it was. I believe it was the palette for the lightest skin, and it didn't have a bronzer. It had like finishing powders and some highlighters and some blushes, but it didn't have a bronzer. I was actually really surprised. And so it didn't really make for a full face palette, which I was a little disappointed in because it was the best match for my skin tone. But I like my face palettes to have everything I need for my cheeks. So I was really happy to see that they incorporated all 3 cheek products in all of the palettes. All right, I'm going to start with this Natural Bronze bronzer. And let's see, I'm going to try a different brush. I'm actually going to use my Nikki LaRose MBK Beauty brush. This is N15. I'm going to go into the bronzer and apply like contour. I really like this shade for contour. It is a bit on the cooler side, as you can see. So there's that bronzer applied. Very, very nice. And I'm going to go for this blush, which is Vibrant Coral. So beautiful. It's so bright. There's Vibrant Coral. Woof! Isn't that pretty? Really beautiful. And then last but not least, let's try one of these highlighters. So the marbleized one, let's see, that's Rose Gold Strobe Light. This one is really catching my eye. This one is, actually it's a blush, Oasis Glow. Okay, then I'll just go for the highlight. In fact, this is the only one that is actually a highlighter, this Strobe Light one. So we'll go with that. I'm gonna go back to the dual-ended ambient lighting brush. Oof, That is bright. That is gorgeous. Hourglass powders, man, they never really disappoint, do they? Really beautiful. Okay, now there is this finishing powder in Soft Light. I think what I want to do is apply some of it to my nose here. Their finishing powders are just that. They're great for finishing. And I like to add them to spots on my face that I would like a little bit of highlight. Nothing where I want to put like an actual highlight, but just something that kind of, needs a little bit of lightening up. So center of my forehead, down my nose, a little bit on my chin here. And then sometimes I'll add it underneath my eyes if I feel like I want to brighten them up a little bit. So there, that's really beautiful. And this palette, like I said, for the Lotus Flower, this Evil Eye palette is definitely meant for like light medium skin tones. So for me personally, it would be between this one and the next one, which is the Dragon palette. All right, so I'm gonna remove the Evil Eye palette and then we'll move on to the Dragon palette. All right, and now for the Dragon palette, this you can see is for the lightest skin tones. And I just want to point out before I forget, this is the powder that when I was finger swatching all of these palettes, this is the powder that felt really dry. It's swatched beautifully. We'll see how it applies. It's swatched beautifully, it's pigmented, all those things. I picked up product, but it's very, I don't know, it just felt dry. Maybe it's just hard too. It felt very hard in the pan. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, but let's go ahead and take a look at these swatches. So again, I swatched from left to right, top to bottom. So first we have finishing powder in Dream Light. This shade is not new. So this is the repeat shade in this palette. Next, we have blush in Peach Fusion. Then we have finishing powder in Divine Light. Then we have blush in Mauve Haze. That, by the way, looks very, very similar to a shade that they had in their original Unlocked palette, which I think is still my favorite. And then we have a bronzer in Soft Bronze. And then we have a strobe lighting powder highlight in Sunlit Strobe Light. This is like so up my alley because it's described as, which is perfect, a pale pink champagne. Is that not gorgeous? Okay, so let's start with this bronzer, which is Soft Bronze. I'm going to go in with the Dragon brush into the bronzer. Yes, this one definitely suits my skin tone the best. It's like the perfect tone and the perfect color depth. So that's the bronzer. Next, let's go into, I was going to say let's use a mauve, but I do want to try this one out because that felt dry. So let's try that one out. And that one is the Peach Fusion. It's a little bit harder pressed, I want to say, than the other powders. I'm not picking up quite as much. Usually with Hourglass powders, I have to be like one tap and that's it. They're very, very pigmented. This I feel like is a little bit harder to pick up. I just have to layer on a little bit more. I just have to go in a little bit more often. I mean, the final result I think is very beautiful, but I just want to make note of that. I am going to go into this mauve shade because it's just calling my name. This one is so pretty. Yeah, and I picked this one up much more easily. You can probably see how much more product I have on my brush, but of course it blends out beautifully. So here's the mauve and here's that Peach Fusion. Yeah, Peach Fusion. And then finally, I've been dying to try this Sunlit Strobe Light. Oof, I'm excited. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. It has just the slightest hint of pink. So it doesn't necessarily make the highlight, like too cold toned or too cool toned. It just has a little bit of pinkiness to it. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. So that is the Dragon palette. And overall, I love these palettes, namely because 5 out of 6 shades in all the palettes are brand new. I think that's always been the biggest gripe in previous Hourglass palette releases, that there were so many repeat shades from like the regular line up to like 3 or 4 per palette. So I really, really love that they only have 1 repeat in each palette and 5 new shades in each. And like I said before, I really, really love the fact that there's a bronzer, a blush, and a highlight in all of the palettes. I also love that all of the palettes are meant for a different skin tone. Now, the Lotus Flower one, this is the one that really is not meant for me. Not meant for me at all. The Evil Eye and the Dragon, I think I can get away with. I mean, you saw, if I use these very, very lightly, I think I can use them, but it's definitely not designed for me. I think this can go for, and I'm just taking a stab here, I think this could go for medium dark, I think. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section about this palette. I mean, it is gorgeous, and I love that all of the shades are smooth. As much as I appreciate the look of those like marbleized palettes, I mean, they're so Hourglass, right? Like this blush right here. I just love the solid shades. I think they're so gorgeous. Anyway, now, if you have been an avid Hourglass palette collector, do you need these? Absolutely not. I mean, none of us need these, but I do like that most of the shades are new. And I think what I love about the idea of these palettes the most is that if you've never experienced an Hourglass powder, or you feel like having an entire compact of a powder is just a little bit too much, this is a great, great starting point. If you just want to like play around with some Hourglass palettes, you get a chance to play with 6 different ones, blush, bronzer, highlight, and you can see if you like them or not. So I think this is great if you want to dip your toe in the Hourglass like powder world. This is a great way to start. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.